Hello and welcome to the Author Webinar Series, brought to you by the Nonfiction Authors Association and Writers Conference. Since 2010, we have helped thousands of writers learn to write, publish, and promote books that make a difference in the world. If you are seeking guidance for your own author journey and want to reach your goals faster, you can learn about membership benefits, courses, and additional resources by visiting nonfictionauthorsassociation.com. We look forward to connecting with you and hope you enjoy this webinar.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another webinar training with the Nonfiction Authors Association. I am your host, Stephanie Chandler. Always appreciate it when you spend your time with me today. For those here live, feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat. Let us know where you're located, what you write about, and potentially connect with each other. We've already found 2 people in the same city just from our last 5 minutes of catching up. So it's great to have you here. As always, I have a jam-packed presentation, educational session for you. We're going to talk about how to work with beta readers and build your launch team. For my live attendees, if you have questions, I'm going to stay and take all of your questions. Please put them in the Q&A so I don't have to fish through the chat. So the Q&A box is where questions go, and we will absolutely take them at the end. You will also receive a copy of the slides, so you don't need to take furious notes. And the recording as well will be shared this afternoon. So without further ado, beta readers are the people that you give early access to your manuscript. And we do this for a couple of reasons. Perhaps you're looking for editorial feedback. You want to know, is it landing with your readers? Do they have questions? Does it make sense to them? Are they enjoying reading your manuscript? So you may be seeking editorial feedback, which is a very popular reason to solicit beta readers, early readers. And then there's also word of mouth buzz. This is my favorite reason to work with beta readers. They're kind of your biggest supporters as your book is coming out because they've been given the privilege of seeing it early. And therefore, if they like the book, they're going to be your first reviewers, the first people to talk about it. So I think the buzz that can be built from a community of beta readers is tremendously valuable. Now, if you're seeking editorial feedback, and not all of us do, when I do my own beta reader campaigns, I'm not necessarily seeking editorial feedback. I'm kind of like to work in my own little box. Of course, I will get editorial feedback because that is just our nature to share that. But you may or may not be seeking editorial feedback, and either way is perfectly fine. But if you are seeking editorial feedback from beta readers, typically what you would want to ask them for is a chapter by chapter review. If you just give them the manuscript and say, let me know what you think, you're probably not going to get a lot of valuable feedback. So what we really want to do is be very specific about what we're seeking. You're going to ask for clarification, maybe ask them to fill out a feedback form at the end of each chapter. You might even allow them to mark up the text itself. That's up to you. So there's lots of ways that you can handle the editorial process. Some writers, maybe you're on a limited budget and you can't afford a lot of editing. Maybe you want them to help with the editing. That is acceptable as well. I don't think it replaces human editors. I'm a huge fan. Shout out to the editors out there. Editing is such a critical part of the publishing process, but it certainly can be helpful to get that kind of feedback. But reviews, these are the number one, I think, greatest benefit of early readers. They're your first reviewers. They're the people that are going to write those reviews on Amazon and Goodreads and maybe Barnes and Noble that are praising your book when it's released. Because if you've been doing this for a while, you know that getting book reviews is harder than it should be. I don't know a writer who doesn't struggle with this unless they're a New York Times bestseller. Getting reviews is challenging. Even our closest peers and readers have good intentions to write reviews, but maybe they forget or they don't get around to it. So having beta readers as part of your launch team is such a powerful way to get those reviews up on Amazon right out of the gate. And then there's also the promotional support. So when early readers get your manuscript and then they get on board, they really like what you've done. This is key. They're going to be your loudest proponents. They're going to be the ones talking about your launch on their own social media and sharing it with their own email audiences, maybe in their blogs or on their podcasts. Or I love this one, in groups that they belong to. So maybe your target readers belong to groups on LinkedIn or Facebook or private communities that reach your target readers. If they're recommending your book there, that is so much more valuable than you going into those groups and saying, hey, buy my book, right? When a third party recommends the book, readers or the people who see that are far more likely to make that purchase. Why would someone volunteer to be a beta reader? They're not compensated in any way. But let me just remind you, early access to a manuscript prior to publication is often viewed as an honor. When I'm offered somebody's book ahead of publication, I always feel like, wow, I'm part of kind of an elite club. That is an honor. And so that alone can be great incentive. You know, there was a New York Times statistic that said 80% of people want to write a book. 80%. I would venture to guess that maybe 1% of those people see that through. So when somebody sees that you've authored a book, that's a big deal. That is impressive, especially to those people who've never done this before. And even to those of us who have, because we know it is no easy feat to write, publish, and promote a book. It's a lot of work. So it is an honor to be part of somebody's beta reader community. And it's also an opportunity potentially maybe for them to connect with other readers, other beta readers, if you're doing a larger group, but also it's access to you, right? So they get to give you feedback directly. Maybe they get to communicate with you directly. There is value in that for some of your beta readers. And some authors acknowledge beta readers in their books or on their websites. That's a lot more common in the fiction space where it can be difficult, more difficult to get beta readers. In the nonfiction space, I think it's a little bit easier for us because generally we have readers interested in that specific topic that are willing to participate versus in the fiction community where there are so many, manuscripts coming out that it's easy to kind of get lost in that noise. So I think it's an easy yes, an easy ask for beta readers who are interested in your topic. Now, who should be your beta readers? Certainly, it can be helpful if you're writing prescriptive nonfiction. You certainly want people who are familiar with your topic, maybe fellow experts, maybe consumers of that information, those with similar experiences. So, hello, memoir writers. If you're writing a book about dysfunctional family, your target audience are readers who can either relate or have some interest in books about dysfunctional families. Or if you're writing military history, you're looking for readers in that genre. That's really important. I am not a reader of military history. I actually find it way too sad for my empathetic soul. So I have a hard time with content like that. So I would not be a good beta reader for that type of book. So you just really want to align with people who are interested in your subject matter. Now, if you want editorial feedback, you don't want 100 people giving you editorial feedback. I wouldn't recommend that. That would be a lot to manage. That's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. So for editorial feedback, I'd say you want a manageable number of beta readers, maybe 20 or less. Keep in mind, not everyone's going to follow through. That's just the nature of the beast. But you certainly don't want hundreds of people sending you editorial feedback. That will be incredibly overwhelming. And I also want to add that editorial feedback is so subjective, right? So you may or may not agree with the feedback that you get, and that's your prerogative. But I would say if there is a theme in the feedback you're getting, you should pay attention to that, right? So if several beta readers are giving you the same suggestions for improvement, really take those to heart, because that's why you've asked them to participate. You're looking for feedback that you can put into action. Now, if you're working with beta readers primarily because you're seeking those early reviews and the promotional support, my philosophy is to enlist as many beta readers as you can get. With my last beta reader campaign, I set a goal. I wanted 100 beta readers. I thought that would be a nice number for early reviews and that promotional love that shows up on social media during the book launch. I ended up getting 401 applicants, and I accepted 400 of them. And I was thrilled to have so many people engaged in the process. Now, again, keep in mind, a good percentage of those people are going to fall off. They're busy, they forget about it, they didn't like the book, whatever the case may be. 400 people aren't writing reviews. You'll be lucky if 20% of them do. So keep those numbers in mind as well. And you're probably going to have to ask them repeatedly and remind them. However, the more people who fall in love with your book, the better. The more eyeballs we can get on our work. I've always felt this is a wonderful promotion strategy, because you want people talking about your book. It's like that thing when a friend recommends, hey, I checked out this new restaurant nearby and it was great, you should go there. You immediately go, oh my gosh, that's going on my list. At least I do. Right. And that happens with books too. When a peer or a friend tells me they really loved a book, that goes on my TBR, my to be read list. And that's what you want other people doing with your book, is recommending it, wholeheartedly recommending it because they enjoyed your book. So to find beta readers, generally we start with the people we know. Who do you know? Your peers, certainly, people that are in your space, friends that you trust to give you real feedback, because sometimes our friends can maybe be overly kind. And again, this is if you're seeking the editorial support. For promotion support, you just want as many as possible. I call this your community of influence. So who do you know that you could ask to participate as a beta reader with your manuscript? You also want to reach out to kind of your broader connections. So if you have an email list, and I hope you do, authors, we should all have email lists. And if you don't have one yet, start building that. You want to be connecting with your readers when your book is out. But if you've got previous books, certainly reaching out to past readers. If you have a business, asking your clients, fellow writers here in this community, if you're seeking beta readers right now, put it in the chat and let others that are here today connect with you. Let them know what your book is about, that you're seeking beta readers, and share your contact information. I encourage all of you to support each other and connect with books that you're interested in that genre as well. This is how we find our committed readers. And then social media, if you're on social media, certainly putting out a call for beta readers to your community on LinkedIn or Instagram or wherever you're spending your time. Make it clear what your book is about and that you're seeking beta readers who are interested in this specific topic. I hope some of you are also participating in Reddit. This is a very engaged place where community discussions are happening on all kinds of topics. So if you're not there yet, I encourage you to go check out Reddit. This is not a platform where you go in and just, promote yourself, but it is a platform where you can connect with people who are interested in military history or weight loss strategies or anti-aging strategies. Whatever your topic is, go join those Reddit groups and make sure you're not violating any rules of the group, but you could potentially put out a call for beta readers in these groups. So I'm loving AI, you guys. And if you've been coming to my events recently, I'm intentionally sharing prompt ideas with you because I want you to embrace it too. And let me be clear. I am not advocating writing your books with AI. I am advocating using AI for research, for ideas, for for creativity. I'm finding so many valuable ways to leverage AI. So AI can actually help you find groups that reach your target audience. This is such a time saver. So I wrote a prompt here. Let's say you're writing about self-care. And you want to tell AI its role. You are an expert in self-care for women ages 35 and up. You're telling AI what its role is. Search for social media groups, Reddit subs, and other online communities that reach this target audience so I can join and share details about my book on self-care for women. Create a spreadsheet that includes the following fields: group name, brief description, website link, and explain why this is a good group for me to join. So there's the prompt. You do get the slides, so you don't need to furiously write this down. The slides will be shared, and it produces a spreadsheet. This is just a portion of it. It was a pretty substantial spreadsheet, by the way. This is such a time saver. So AI can help you locate key contacts, groups, things that you are looking for in a much faster way than an old Google search. All right, so you're ready to enlist some beta readers. Maybe if you're seeking that editorial support, you may just reach out to people individually, which is perfectly fine. But if you're seeking lots of them, like I do, then you're going to want to organize it and put out your call. So I announce my call for beta readers on social. Our email subscribers will get an invitation. Groups I belong to, all of that is where my call for beta readers will go. And I recommend, if you are seeking lots of beta readers, that you create an application. Google Forms is free. It's super easy to create an application there. And you want to be really specific. You're not just looking for a name and an email address. I like to ask questions that they actually have to write in an answer to, because then they know they're human, they're paying attention. So, think about what do you care about with a beta reader? Certainly you want to be clear that they read your genre, they're interested in your genre. Maybe you really want beta readers who have a social media presence. Whatever your criteria is fine, but just keep that in mind as you're creating your application. So you guys, this is the first time I have shared this. I have a new book coming soon. And you guys are going to be the very first to see the application. So become a beta reader for the Nonfiction Book Writing Plan. You will see that I ask some pointed questions to clarify that the applicant is the right audience for this book. And the first question is, are you a nonfiction writer? What do you write about? I want to make sure I'm getting a human answer. Why would you be interested in being a beta reader? And then another really important question: if you enjoy the book, will you support the launch by sharing it in some way? This can include writing reviews on Amazon, sharing on social. Please specify how you will participate. So, look, I'm not expecting everyone to become social media masters and announce the book on 92 networks. I have no expectation of that, but I'd like to know that as a beta reader, if they like the book, that they will support it in some way. So I asked that as an open-ended question on my application form. This was created in Google Forms. By the way, I wrote this manuscript during our last cohort for the Write Your Book in 90 Days course. I wrote the full manuscript during that course in 12 weeks, along with the students working on their own manuscripts. I'm so thrilled about it. So if you'd like to be one of my beta readers, and then you can see the process that I follow, you can sign up. I created a link, nonfictionbetareader.com, and there's a QR code for you here as well. You are literally the first to see this. I have not put this out publicly anywhere yet. And during our next 12-week course, I am finalizing this manuscript. So it's not going to be out next month, but it is coming later this year. And I'd love for you to be a beta reader. You are all part of my target audience because you're writing nonfiction. All right. So now that you've put out a call for beta readers, you're going to review those applications. Now you want to organize how you communicate with them. How are you going to share your manuscript? There's a number of ways to go about it. I do something simple. I'll either put it up in a Dropbox, or we have a book funnel account. I really like the book funnel tool. It's an inexpensive tool that allows you to give access to your digital book manuscript and in the format that the downloader wants it. So they can download it in a PDF or in a Kindle reader, whatever their format is. So if you want to get fancy, you could use BookFunnel, but you could also just share through Dropbox. Make sure you guys, when you're sharing your work, you always put a copyright statement on there. Copyright 2026 by Stephanie Chandler. I put it in the footer of my manuscripts that I share. That's really important. If you want to take an extra step and register it with copyright.gov, I think it's about $35. That's just an added layer of protection. But really, you're wanting to get it in their hands, and then you want to be in frequent communication. You don't want to just share the manuscript and then disappear for 3 months, right? You want to engage with your beta readers, ask them how it's going, ask for the feedback, give them your process, give them the form you want them to fill out after they read each chapter if you're seeking that editorial feedback, but give them a way to engage with you. And of course, show your gratitude. I mean, it's an honor for them, but they really are also doing you a favor. So make sure they know that you appreciate their time. It's a big time investment to read somebody's manuscript. So make sure you're showing that gratitude. Now, I get this question all the time, but I don't want to put my work out in the world. What if somebody steals it? And, piracy is an issue, no question about it. But it's not as likely in compared to the value that you're going to get from giving those early readers access to your manuscript. So, Seth Godin has one of my favorite quotes: your problem isn't piracy, your problem is obscurity. So think about this. And this idea is that the more people who read your book, the better. Whether you're giving it away for free, you're selling it for 99 cents, you're putting it in little free libraries, whatever it is, the more eyeballs you have on your book, the more people you can have recommending your book to others. This is so key. We recommend books because we enjoy them. So you want your book to be well written, well edited, and you want loyal readers who can't wait to tell 3 other people about it. So that's why I was willing to share mine with 400 people. And in fact, I put in the PDF of the manuscript, if you know someone who would enjoy this book, please pass this along. I didn't ask them to lock it down. I asked them to share it. I don't view that as a lost sale. I view that as a new fan. Let me say that one more time. I don't view that as a lost sale. I view that as a new fan. So even though people are getting to read it for free, they are potentially talking about it. They are potentially writing reviews about it. That is valuable to me. They are potentially signing up for our email list or to download the bonuses that come with the book. I always have a bonus link in my books, and you should too, because there's no other way to connect with your readers without giving them some added value and asking them to sign up. So it's important to get it in as many hands as possible. And I actually encouraged people to share my work and not keep it under lock and key. All right. So when you are sharing, you want to make sure you're setting up the context, right? Let them know share the book description. Here's what the book is about, because the book description sets the intention for when I read the manuscript. Does the manuscript actually align with what I was sold in the book description? That's actually a really important question. Let them know who your target reader is so that they're thinking about it in those terms. And what are your goals for the book? What transformation do you want readers to have? What is the outcome that they should get from reading the book? Or if it's a memoir, what is the journey, the transformation that takes place on your journey? And how do you want that to impact readers? So don't just throw the manuscript at them without any context. We want them to understand what your goals are. And then that feedback, what kind of editorial support do you want if you want editorial feedback? Are you looking for them to get in there and update your spelling and your punctuation? Most, I would say, authors are looking for content specific feedback. Is this confusing? Was this redundant? Were there enough examples? Asking specific questions so that you get feedback you can incorporate when you do your next rewrite. So I put together some sample questions for you. And again, you get these slides, but for narrative, for memoir, for narrative nonfiction, are the characters relatable? Does the writing describe scenes in vivid detail? Does it read like a novel? Because guess what? Memoir and narrative nonfiction should be as compelling as reading a really good novel. And this is why I love editors. They help us make that happen. How could it be improved? So you're going to ask these questions. For prescriptive nonfiction, is the guidance clear? Is there anything that's confusing? Is the writing engaging? Are there enough examples in real world stories? So think about what kind of very specific questions you want them to answer on a chapter by chapter basis. What would improve this chapter for you? And here we go. I have another AI prompt for you guys. So ask AI to generate some questions for you. You don't have to use it verbatim, but I think it can give you some great ideas. So here's a potential prompt. You are an experienced editor of books about self-care. So you're giving AI its role. For a manuscript about self-care for women ages 35 and up, what questions should I ask beta readers to answer when doing a chapter by chapter editorial review of the manuscript? So I put this into Claude, I believe, and it gave me some great examples. I included them all here, but the example, were there moments when the advice felt too generic, too young, or aimed at someone at a different life stage? I thought that was such a great question. Where did you feel most seen and where did you feel overlooked? So the questions I thought were great. I didn't love all of them, but I loved a lot of them. Did you feel equipped to act on this advice or did it feel vague? That's great, you guys. So you'll get this with the slides, but try that prompt for your specific subject matter. You could also upload your book description and have it generate these questions based on your book description, because your book description should be clearly detailing what the value is, and it can help you come up with your very specific feedback questions. All right, so you've got your beta readers enlisted, you're asking them important questions and getting feedback. Now you want to involve them in the process. You want them to feel like they're part of the book publishing and launch process. So let them know, hey, the book is in typesetting and we've set the launch date, mark your calendars. We got this great editorial review from Kirkus. Celebrate the wins with them. Let them feel like they are part of the process. It's really fun to be part of somebody's book launch evolution. And so you want to just maintain that communication with them so that they're as excited as you are about your book coming out. And then we need to ask for what we want them to help with. So, some people need a reminder to say, would you please write a review on Amazon? If you have an email list, would you share this with your subscribers? Do you belong to social media groups that reach women over 35 who need self-care, whatever your topic is, right? Can you recommend this book to 3 friends? I love that question. So be very specific and ask for the support that you need from your beta readers. Now, your beta readers are the foundation of your launch team. They are the people that are going to help you get the word out about your book when it comes out. But in addition to them, you might have other people that you want to enroll in your book launch. So for me, for example, I will reach out to all of my peers in the publishing community that I've been working in for over 20 years. And I may not necessarily ask my peers to be my beta readers, but I will certainly ask if they would be supportive of the launch. I'll send them a review copy of the book, and I will ask if they like it, would they please, help get the word out. It's that simple. So it's who you know, right? This community of influence, that your past readers, your clients, your customers, your past coworkers. I mean, you'd be surprised how impressed people are that you're writing a book and how much they would love to support you. And you may not even know that they belong to, a large community of people that are your target readers. So asking that question can help unlock some pretty cool magic. So again, you get these slides, but think about reaching out to alumni groups that you may belong to, trade associations, certainly social media groups. I love that as a target strategy, and do this exercise. And then be very specific about what you're asking them to help you do. Can they put a guest article on their blog or an excerpt from your book on their blog? Can they interview you? Maybe they have a podcast. Can they do a book giveaway? Reach out, by the way, to admins, the people who run groups, social media groups, or trade associations that reach your target audience, and ask to do a book giveaway. Give away a handful of copies. That's a really low cost way to get a ton of visibility with the members of that community. Ask for a bulk purchase. I've said before, I'm former Silicon Valley. If I were writing books that would serve my, coworkers from the Silicon Valley, you can bet I would be reaching out and saying, hey, can you buy 100 copies of this book to give to your staff at Salesforce or Oracle? I know people at so many tech companies. I should have gone with that niche. I could have totally nailed it. But the point is, who do you know? And can you ask for a bulk purchase? So here's another exercise for you guys. Do your community of influence exercise. Many of you have been with me a long time. Hopefully by now you've already done this, but if you haven't, do this while you're writing your book. You don't want to wait till after the book is launched. You want to do this now. So create your spreadsheet and make a list of the people that you know that you can enlist in being your beta readers, bringing you in for a speaking engagement. Whatever your ask is going to be, I do this exercise every time I launch a book. It is always valuable. All right. And then we want to make it easy for our launch team to help us get the word out. So you don't just want to say, hey, help me spread the word, the end. You actually want to make it easy for them to do so. So I always recommend that authors create what I call a partners page. It's not a page in the main navigation of your website. It's like a hidden page where you share pre-written social media posts. Check out this great book by Joe author on how to save for your kids' college or whatever it's about. Pre-write those so it's easy for them to copy and paste. Pre-write several email announcements describing the book and what it's about. Create graphics, social media graphics, 3D image of your book cover, maybe quotes from the book that you can put on this partners page that people can easily grab and share when they're supporting your launch. And of course, always a direct link to the Amazon book page. We really need to drive our book sales to Amazon, because that is just where we believe somewhere in the neighborhood of 70% of all books are being sold on Amazon, unfortunately. So just make it as easy as possible for your launch team and your beta readers to support getting the word out. All right. I know that was a lot, but here's your next steps. You're going to figure out what kind of feedback you want, how many beta readers you want, who you're going to ask. You're going to create your feedback form with some detailed questions that you want answered. And I should clarify, your feedback form shouldn't be 5 pages long. That will deter people. I would say 1 page max, because you're asking them to review after each chapter, maybe 5 of your best questions. And always an open question. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Always an open question on a feedback form. If you're going to do a big beta call for beta readers, create an application. You can do that with Google Forms. It's super easy. And then get how you're going to share your manuscript. If you're going to do Dropbox link or BookFunnel or Google Drive, whatever it is, and then maintain communication with your beta readers. Let them be part of the process. It's a lot of fun, and they can really become your greatest advocate, and create that partners page and make it as easy as possible for them to share. All right, I want your questions. Put them in the Q&A so I don't have to filter through chat. So please put them in the Q&A box, and I will stay as long as it takes to answer all of your questions. And if you'll indulge me with 2 minutes before we go to Q&A, I would love to share with you that we have a new course starting in June 18th to be exact. Write your nonfiction book in 90 days. This is a cohort that I lead. And as I said, I wrote my own full manuscript during our last 12-week cohort. It is so much fun and so helpful to have accountability of, I didn't want to show up at the course that I'm leading and have to say I didn't get my work done, right? So the accountability is a huge reason people join this course. But we also have some very detailed processes for how to develop your outline and how to decide on what topic you want to write about, because so many of us have multiple ideas. So we figure out, how do we understand your goals and align your book topic with your goals. We talk about how to choose the right title, how to come up with your manuscript elements, the research, the statistics, the quotes. I have a process we use for creating a really detailed outline. You'll learn about editors and what kind of editing is available to you and what you should choose for your own needs, because it's different for each of us. And then we also cover the publishing basics. How do you land a book deal? We learn about self-publishing versus hybrid publishing. And then we have a module on setting up your marketing systems to get ready for your book launch. So we cover a lot in 12 weeks, and it's so much fun to do this. The course rate, it's $668 if you're an authority or VIP member of the Nonfiction Authors Association. Thought leader members attend all of our courses for free. If you're not a member, it's $997, although you can join and add membership and get the member rate. We have 3 pay options. But here's the thing, you guys, by the end of August, if you've been sitting on your manuscript, or you've been sitting on a book idea, or you're stuck with your manuscript, you could have your finished draft. Now, let me be clear. In 12 weeks, you're not going to have a publishable manuscript. You're going to have a CFD, a crappy first draft. This is our goal. Get that first draft out of your head and onto paper. This is how every nonfiction manuscript should begin, with a crappy first draft. And then you go through and you iterate and you clean it up and you edit and you invite feedback for it. But by the end of August, you could have this. You could have your first draft. You'll have your outline, your working title. You'll have your book description ready. You'll have a pitch, elevator pitch ready, and you'll have a system for getting this done. That is so important, and it works. And it doesn't require you committing 10 or 12 hours a week. You guys, you can actually accomplish this in just a few hours of writing each week. I promise you, it's for real. And I just want to end with this. Nicole Nina attended our cohort last year. She is a therapist who has children and just had an infant. She had an infant child and joined our 12-week course. And I was like, how in the world are you committing your time to this with an infant and a full therapy practice? But she was like one of the top performers in the class. She got her manuscript done. She wrote the most beautiful, heartfelt testimonial that it literally brought her a sense of purpose. And the point that she made was that she doesn't prioritize her own needs enough, right? It's all about her family and it's all about her clients. But this allowed her to prioritize herself and a goal that she really wanted to reach. So her book is out, called Balancing Anxiety. And I'm just so proud of her. I was really touched by her sharing her experience. So if you do want to join us, sign up for the course, nonfictionwritingcourse.com. If you do it today, I will personally sign and send you your choice, either the Nonfiction Book Publishing Plan or the Nonfiction Book Marketing and Launch Plan. So if you sign up today, send an email to service at Nonfiction Authors Association. Let us know your mailing address and your choice of book. And my team will forward that to me, and I will personally mail these out next week. So I would love to do this with you. And it truly is such a magical experience. We have repeat course attendees because they make so much progress. So they have next book ideas. I was just talking to 2 different repeat attendees this morning alone because now they're working on their next book project. So I'd love for you to join me. I will shut up now and let's get to your questions. Hopefully that was helpful. Let me find our Q&A. Here we go. All right, guys, let's get into this question. What if your title changes from the draft you gave a beta reader? So they are promoting How to ABC, and the new title is Take Steps ABC. Same question for promoting in advance of your own social media. The title changes. Oh my gosh, Lisa, this is a great question because your title probably will change. It's called a working title for a reason. And in fact, my article in next week's newsletter talks about how to title your book. So the thing is, your book title may change, and that's okay. And let's let them know, right? Just announce it. That's okay. We call it a working book title for a reason. And almost every one of us who write nonfiction are going to change our title at some point in the process of writing and publishing the book. If you didn't change your title along the way, I would actually be quite concerned. So Linda says, for an unpublished book, how do you distribute manuscript to readers? Oh, I just said that. So you put it in a Dropbox link or a Google Drive, something along those lines. Are beta readers the best ones from which I ask for blurbs? Matt, that's a great question. So blurbs or testimonials for your book typically aren't coming from beta readers. They're coming from ideally fellow authors in your genre. We want notable names, people in the same genre to write those endorsements for your book. So that's very different from beta readers who are hopefully your target readers. Maybe some of them are fellow authors in that space. And if that's the case, then great, you can ask them for an endorsement. But no, those typically come from authors in that same genre or notable, influential people in that genre. Maybe, a well-known media professional, even a celebrity, or a CEO of a really recognizable company. That would count. But endorsements need to come from somebody with some name recognition. Linda says, for an unpublished book, we already said that one. Sorry, guys, move along here. What caused you to reject beta reader applicant number 401? Great question, Pam. 401 looked like a spammer. And this is exactly why I put open-ended questions on my application form and ask people to write a human answer. There weren't human answers on that application. So that was very easy to ditch. And every other one of them was human. And I think a lot of that was primarily because a lot of them came from my email subscriber list. So I already know it's a pretty well pre-qualified audience, right? How do people post a review for an unpublished manuscript? Yeah, Linda, they can't publish a review until the book is released, which is why we want to stay in communication with the beta readers as we go through the publishing process. There's a gap there, right? So especially if you're seeking editorial feedback, you need to share the manuscript months ahead of publication. Not so much if you're just seeking promotional support. You might just be a couple of months out from launch date, and you don't want them to forget about it. So we want to stay in communication with those beta readers in the time leading up to the launch date. Michael says, does one need to have beta readers sign a form related to confidentiality or restrictions? I mean, Michael, you could do that. Certainly, you could ask them for an NDA. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It might I don't like to create friction. So if I'm asking 400 people to sign an NDA, my guess is maybe half of them will take the time to do that because they might just find it annoying. So it really depends. It gets back to that Seth Godin quote that your problem is not piracy, your problem is obscurity. I mean, books do get pirated, no question, especially in today's world. But if that happens, we deal with it, right? Amazon is fairly good about removing pirated content. You have to press, but they will remove it. So, and quite honestly, I've always thought if somebody pirates my content, I would be concerned if a reader would want to buy the pirated edition, right? They never look as professional as the real edition. Luann says, how many of those beta readers do you think will still purchase your book? Oh, great question, Luann. I was so actually touched by my beta readers with that last group of 400 because I saw many of their reviews showing up as a verified purchase, and they didn't have to buy the book, right? They got a digital copy of it for free, and many of them went on to buy the book, and that felt like just a show of support, and I was really touched by that. So I think that will naturally happen as part of the process. You can certainly ask them to buy the book, and what a lot of authors do at launch time or in a pre-launch, so prior to announcing your book launch, you can lower the price on the ebook version of your book to anywhere from free to $2.99, and then put that out to your early readers and ask them to make that low dollar purchase. And then when they write the review, it will be tagged as a verified purchase on Amazon. And speaking of that, the soft launch strategy is my favorite personally, because that means that you release your book, but you don't tell anybody. You release it to Amazon quietly, and you do your outreach to your launch team and your beta readers and let them know it's up. Don't tell anybody yet, but here's your chance to buy it and write early reviews. And then let's do the launch in a week, and I'll let you know when it's safe to tell people, right? So that's what I call a soft launch. And I love that strategy because then you get some reviews of the book up on the book page before you announce it to the public. Eva Maria says, I absolutely love the idea that we can look for beta readers in the chat. Would it be possible to make a list and pass it around, as there are so many responding to that, providing those who are looking for beta readers? You guys, we have a policy against sharing your contact information. If somebody here right now wants to go create a Google spreadsheet and share the link that you can all update, you have my permission to do that, but we cannot sponsor that just as part of our data protection policies. I take your data protection very seriously. Don says, is it acceptable to solicit betas for a few chapters only? Do they expect to see it all? I would say as a rule, Don, they would expect to see the whole book. That's kind of part of the benefit for them as well. For reviews on Amazon, do they identify themselves as a beta reader? Oh, great question, Patsy. Yes, so I absolutely do think it is wise to have your beta readers or instruct them to add a line in the review that says, I received a complimentary copy of this book in exchange for my honest review. I received a complimentary copy of this book in exchange for my honest review. That will help, especially if they are a non-verified buyer. That will help prevent Amazon from wanting to remove reviews they think came from friends. And that also helps potential readers see, oh, they have a lot of unverified reviews, but it looks like they shared copies. That's legit. That's not just a bunch of bots creating reviews. What timing do you recommend if this is a launch team? Is it 4 weeks before launch and they ask to read review? Irina. So great question. So for promotional support, I think a good time frame is 6 to 8 weeks. That gives them enough time to get around to reading the book before it comes out. So 6 weeks is probably, I would say, the sweet spot to share. So you want to start the recruitment process maybe a couple of weeks ahead of that, and then share it 6 weeks ahead of your launch so that it's still fresh in their memories. And this is if you're doing promotional only. If you're seeking editorial feedback, you need to do months in advance because you also need time for them to complete the editorial feedback and for you to incorporate the editorial feedback. Richie says, is it probable that those who get a free PDF may later buy the actual print or ebook? Yes, Richie, it is absolutely probable, for sure. Dawn says, do we have any recourse if we happen to see excerpts of our work or research out in the wild after we send out beta copies? So, Dawn, yes, you do. Excerpts of your work should always be cited. And there's a number of ways to approach this. It always starts with a simple cease and desist letter. And honestly, for most of us, you can just draft that yourself. There's lots of examples online. And in fact, we have, if you're a member in our community, we have legal agreements you can use as templates for this. So you would send a cease and desist, remove that content. This is a good reason to register your manuscript with copyright.gov because that gives you added protection. If somebody were to reprint your entire book, you would be able to take legal recourse. But there are caveats to all of this. If it happens in other countries where we don't have copyright control or legal control, there's very little that can be done other than to get Amazon to take it down, right? But for a long time, we would see these book pirates put up a free PDF of the book. My books have been pirated as free PDFs. And you look at these sites, they look like junk sites. And my thought is always, if somebody wants my book that badly, they can have it, right? Because it just speaking from an ethical perspective, I would never download somebody's book that way. I would go buy the book, but they can also go and borrow the book for free from a friend or at the library. So books are going to get shared no matter what we do. And this is why I'm aware of piracy. I'm concerned about it, but it is not my core concern in the publishing world. I would rather focus on getting more eyeballs on my books. Did I answer all of your questions? Just scanning through the chat, it looks like you all are connecting. I love seeing that. Thank you for that. I hope this was helpful. If you put something in the chat, I'm not seeing it because it's a lot here to go through. If you have any remaining questions, please pop them in the Q&A. But I will just remind you, I'd love to see you in our 12-week course. And we're going to do another webinar next week that kind of gives you an overview of that process to write your book in 12 weeks. So if the course isn't in your budget or timeline, you'll get a high-level view of what we do to create a book in 90 days, a first draft. And I would absolutely love to see you there. And Irina, the benefits of the soft launch, thank you for the compliment. Yeah, the soft launch, so many benefits. So I always like to release the book 7 to 10 days ahead of when I officially announce the book, because I want to get those early reviews. I want to make sure Amazon's shipping properly. There's all kinds of fussy frustrations with working with Amazon. And so this allows you to claim your author's central profile, set all of that up with your soft launch. And then once all your ducks in a row and you've got some reviews, then you can publicly do your launch announcement. Now, the other strategy is a pre-sale. So pre-sale means that you're putting your book up for purchase ahead of the launch date. Some authors do this for months in advance. I think this can be a useful strategy, especially for people with a larger platform. I happen to know you have a larger platform because the pre-sales, all those sales that you accumulate count on launch day. No question, you're going to reach the top of your Amazon categories that day. So there's some benefit to that. However, when a book is in pre-sale, you can't get reviews on the book and things like that. So I did a pre-sale with my last book. I did not enjoy that process. I would rather have a little more control over the steps in the launch. That's me personally. Tina says that we purchased the course 2 weeks ago. Do we still get the bonus? Sure, Tina, send an email. We'll honor that. Annie says, will we receive a copy of the webinar chats? Yes to the chats, yes to the slides. All of that will be shared this afternoon in your inbox. Hopefully this was helpful for you guys. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. And thank you for the kind words there, Pam. I appreciate you guys. Thank you, Irina. And look forward to seeing you in our community and maybe next week at our next free training webinar. Thanks, you guys. I appreciate you so much, and we'll see you soon. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you for attending this webinar by the Nonfiction Authors Association. Since 2010, we have helped thousands of writers learn to write, publish, and promote books that make a difference in the world. If you need support navigating the complexities of the publishing industry and want to reach your author goals faster, you can learn about membership benefits, courses, and additional resources by visiting nonfictionauthorsassociation.com.